And I expect that this discovery is going to continue to grow, John. That's what's happened. Every time we turn on the drill rig, we've had good results. And if you go back and look at, we've drilled 33,000 meters, and, the number of drill holes, there's been very few drill holes out of the 160 or so that we've drilled that don't have a reportable intercept. I mean, that hit rate alone is really spectacular. In my career, that tells you you're on to a very, very serious discovery.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Once again, I have the pleasure of speaking with David Kelly, President and CEO of Chakana Copper. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. The company's put out a number of press releases lately. The last one was yesterday, so that's why we have you in today to talk about that. So, your initial impressions on these results that you put out. There's some pretty impressive numbers in there. How are you feeling?
Well, we're super excited, John. I mean, those results are really spectacular. Very, very high grade. This is continuing the information that's coming out on Paloma West. It's a very high grade breccia pipe. We're seeing some spectacular gold going with the very high copper, and that's really exciting. We've always seen a lot of gold in places in the breccia pipes. Oftentimes these breccia pipes are zoned where we have gold and silver up high, and then as we get further down, they turn more into copper, silver, or straight copper with a little bit of gold. But, in the zone that we're at Paloma West, we're seeing very high copper. The previous news release had 10% copper with 7 grams gold and 160 grams silver. And then the latest news release that just came out yesterday, had 5 grams gold and 3% copper, and I think 250 grams silver, something like that. So really, really spectacular grades in all 3 metals. And it's a vertical pipe-like breccia. It's got a diameter of about 35 meters so far. We just have a few holes into this thing so far. We have more results to release when assays come back, but it's looking really, really exciting, given the fact, especially that it's just 150 meters off to the west or southwest from the Paloma East discovery, which we've talked about that as well.
Yeah, in Paloma East, you had more of the longer runs of lower grade, but obviously building some nice tonnage there. And Paloma West is obviously a little bit more high grade stuff.
That's right. And we do think that they're linked. I mean, we have a large geophysical anomaly that sits right smack in the middle of the 2 breccias that are exposed at surface. There's a very prominent northeast trending structure linking the 2 breccias. In fact, that structure continues all the way up to breccia 1 and breccia 7. It's what we now call the Paloma structure. And we have numerous targets that sit along that structure all the way to the southwest as well as to the northeast. So that's a really encouraging development to recognize the linkage with these breccias in a structure. Paloma East, we were getting hundreds of meters of kind of 0.34 gold, 0.36 copper with 15 grams silver right from surface, and that's a very, very significant intercept. But within that, we were also hitting some nice high grade zones. We were hitting zones of 2% copper. And we know that once we hit those zones, we can follow those zones because they're fluid pathways. They link back down to the ultimate, source of the fluids. And now that we've identified this structure in these high grade zones, and we've got a lot to work with now in terms of, following up this mineralization.
So I think you're up to 16 holes so far in this phase of the program. How many holes are left to report on the Paloma targets?
Yeah, we had drilled 7 holes at Paloma East. They have all been released. We've drilled 13 holes at Paloma West, and we've with yesterday's release, we put out 9 drill holes there. So we have 4 more holes at Paloma West to release, which will happen, this month, and then in January we'll start reporting on Huancarama.
Okay, so speaking of Huancarama, this is a good segue. Can you give us any sort of hint how that's going?
Yeah,
obviously have to be careful.
Well, as you know, it's a really exciting target for us, mainly because it's the footprint right at surface is 200 meters across. We've got 5 principal breccia bodies. We've got this really interesting collapse zone that sits right in between the breccias. And now as we're drilling, we're starting to develop our own hypothesis as to what this collapse zone means. And I'll save that for a future interview with you once we start releasing some of the results. It's a very, very interesting feature, but the drilling is going great there. We've drilled, we finished 10 holes and we're drilling the 11th hole now. You know, and it's a big target area for us. So I can't wait to come back on in January and talk to you about that, John.
So it would be your kind of January is when you expect to be able to report sort of the initial assays from the first holes.
Yeah, we should, you know, we've kind of overloaded the we've been drilling real steady, and you know, we've had a lot of results going to the lab, and our turnaround time is good. You know, I keep getting asked that. A lot of, I guess in North America, a lot of companies that are working in Canada and the US are suffering delays in assays and stuff. We haven't really
bad delays.
Yeah, in Peru, ALS has done a great job for us. They've generally 2 weeks turnaround time, but you know, as I mentioned, if we have over 1% copper in a single assay, a single interval, they have to reassay that, and they have to reassay anything over 200 grams silver, excuse me, or 10 grams gold, and we have a lot of over assays that have to be redone. So our turnaround time's generally about 3 weeks as a result of the reassaying work that has to be done.
And I think even at that 3-week turnaround time, there's probably a lot of CEOs in Canada, for, you know, Canadian exploration that are probably still jealous of that sort of turnaround time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
I couldn't say enough about our lab performance. You know, ALS has done a great job, and you know, they've staffed up when they've needed to. You know, there's a lot of other activity. You know, so that's been a good thing, and to see companies drilling, the number of companies are drilling. Now Puka is drilling, Tinka's drilling. So, you know, it's good to see that activity, and it's been an important part of the economy for Peru as well.
Okay, and in terms of follow-up at Paloma, like I know this is sort of your first pass, right? This is what you still call your scout drilling phase, if I'm not mistaken. So would it be safe to say, based on some of these numbers that you found, that there's going to be a lot of meters going into, you know, Paloma West to try and further delineate these high-grade zones and maybe chase them to depth? Because you're pretty shallow so far, right?
Yeah, we are shallow so far, and there will be, the whole Paloma area will receive a lot more drilling. You know, we do plan to bring a second drill rig in to up the rate. We wanted to get through the scout drilling phase first, and then move on to the infill drilling. So there's a lot to do at Paloma with just infill, just drilling out Paloma East. You know, there's very large breccia that's getting bigger at depth, and then drilling Paloma West and taking it deeper. You know, we're focusing on the geometry. It's a narrow pipe so far. We do know that all of these breccias that we drilled in detail so far get bigger at depth. We haven't seen that yet with Paloma West, but like you said, we're still very shallow. We're only down to about 100 meters, and we've got a very distinct structural feature kind of controlling the breccias in the Paloma area, this northeast trending Paloma structure. So it's a little bit different from what we've seen. We've seen a number of breccia dikes so far, which are kind of more planar breccia features that come off of the main breccia bodies. And we've also seen a lot of mineralized structures. And there's a photograph in the last news release of what these mineralized structures, they're replacement structures. So the rock has been completely wiped out by sulfide and tourmaline, and they can be very, very high grade. They're not breccia features. They are replacement features, but yet they're right adjacent to that top picture there. That's about 70% sulfide and 30% tourmaline, and it's very, very high grade with copper and gold and silver. But it's not a breccia. It's immediately adjacent to the breccia. You can see the subsequent pictures below there are all breccia examples, and that's what those mineralized structures extending away from the breccia bodies look like. So it's kind of a vectoring tool, but we also think that they're important features. Some of them can be quite wide in a true width kind of way, and so that's what we think. It's all very, very significant.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see. You know, I know you're building your way towards a resource in Q1 of next year, I believe, Q1 or Q2, David, I think. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see what all of this adds up to. Sort of the resource will obviously put everything in context for you, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I've said this before, John. I love to see both styles of mineralization. Hundreds of meters of, what effectively is zero point 0.8 to 1% copper equivalent. That's a great zone of mineralization. And having 35-meter diameter pipe with these kind of grades in it, that's a great outcome too. And the fact that these things are only 150 meters apart, and we've got geophysical evidence and structural evidence that suggests that these two zones are related. This is a really exciting development for the project. And if you go back to that initial figure in the last news release showing the mountainside where we're working, you can start counting the number of breccia pipes that we've drill tested. The previous drilling had tested the red circles there: breccia 1, 5, 6, 7, 3 east, 3 west, and the corral breccia. And all of those are mineralized. 3 east and 3 west are strongly mineralized with pyrite. Pyrite crystals the size of your fist and drill core, not high grade copper, gold, and silver. But in select zones, we do see that. We think we're high up in the breccia pipes at breccia 3, and we need to go deeper on those. But 1, 7, 5, 6, and corral have good grades. Paloma East, Paloma West now have very good grades, and we're drilling at Huancarama. So, we keep adding to the story. And right now we're just drill testing the breccia pipes that come to surface. We've already found a blind breccia pipe at 1. We have all of these other targets, geophysical targets by a variety of different means, and geochemical targets, alteration zones. All of those stars are strongly altered areas that we think are the manifestation of a blind breccia pipe sitting near surface. So we've got so much upside potential just in the exploration on the north side of the property, and then we have the whole south side of the project that we haven't done any drilling on yet either. So it's a really exciting development for us.
And it's fair, David, to say that at Paloma West, you've said the diameter is fairly consistent, about 35 meters, but you would expect that at some point that is going to start to flare out and expand as the other breccia pipes have done. And I know you did drill a hole from Paloma East that ended up in mineralization under Paloma West, so those are obviously connected. Like, you're just seeing sort of it's maybe a fair analogy to say at Paloma West, you're probably just seeing, the first part of a finger that's eventually going to join a hand of sorts. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We had that hole that came all the way over from Paloma East. It ended up about 525 meters below surface, below Paloma West. Very strongly mineralized with pyrite. And, we've got high grade copper at surface at Paloma West, and we've got all of this pyrite sitting at depth. And we know, if you go back to those photos, that breccia, I'll show you breccia, the figure 2, the second photo and the third photo, that is copper replacing pyrite. Okay, it's that late stage copper replacement process. I think you and I have talked about that before. It's a very impressive, very high grade style of mineralization. And you can see the depths there. That's 31.9 meters and 33 meters. So we're getting that replacement of pyrite happening in a very shallow extent. And we've got all of that pyrite at depth. And we've only drilled the top 100 meter of Paloma West, and we've got a large breccia body sitting at 500 meters depth. So there's a long way to go, and I do expect that we'll see that this breccia body increases in size as we go down, and we're going to be chasing that grade. So, but there's no better starting point than what you see right there. We've got these high grade intercepts, and they don't disappear. These things are connect to the source at depth. And we're getting on to what's controlling the source with this Paloma structure that seems to be a conduit type of structure that's feeding mineralization both at Paloma East and Paloma West, as well as potentially other breccias and other targets along that same trend. So this is a really important development for us.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see the upcoming assays that you have as well. I'm curious, maybe as a final question, have the results that you've gotten so far sort of met your expectations, or is this sort of above and beyond what you were expecting?
Yeah, I'd have to say that the results so far have far exceeded our expectations. I mean, we've got a lot of good targets, but a target is only as good as until the target. As soon as you drill test, that's when you really know if it's a good target or not, right? And most of the time in exploration as a whole, the maiden drill program is where a project fails. And we came out and started drilling Breccia 1 because they'd already had a few drill holes in it, and we knew that there was some good mineralization there. And kind of the hallmark of this project has been we've gotten great results from being aggressive with the drill rig. So that's the key on a project like this, is to keep drilling. We've got 92 targets, and these are good targets. I mean, these are really, really robust. These aren't conceptual features that there might be something there based on some geologic model or some conceptual idea. These are features that you can measure. You can stand on them, you can sample them. They've got a soil geochemical signature. They've got a very strong geophysical signature to them. And I expect that this discovery is going to continue to grow, John. That's what's happened. Every time we turn on the drill rig, we've had good results. And if you go back and look at, we've drilled 33,000 meters, and the number of drill holes, there's been very few drill holes out of the 160 or so that we've drilled that don't have a reportable intercept. I mean, that hit rate alone is really spectacular. In my career, that tells you you're on to a very, very serious discovery. When you keep expanding and stepping out and testing new targets, and you keep delivering results like this, that's the hallmark of a really unique discovery, and they're not common. You and I have talked about that. Discoveries these days are rare, and especially something that's got high grade copper in it, like we're seeing. I mean, we've been very bullish on copper. Getting the gold and the silver is a bonus for us. It's great to see that, especially seeing 7 grams gold over significant widths. To go with the copper, 5-10% copper. I mean, that's really is spectacular.
Yeah, impressive results so far. Well, David, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today, and appreciate the update. Let's hope the good results keep coming, and investors obviously have something to look forward to later this month. You said there's a few more holes coming, and then into January with Huancarama. So
that's right. I mean, just as a reminder, John, we have a fully funded 15,000 meter drill program, and we've drilled 5,400 meters. So we've still got 9,600 meters to report, and to finish and report. So there's going to be steady news flow, and if we continue having the success like we've had so far, there's a long runway ahead of us, and there's going to be a lot of good results coming out.
Well, exciting times. Looking forward to having more of these discussions with you. And until then, David, you take care and be safe.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Cheers.